What's up, family? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Real Talk Shouted. You're not tuned to another video. Thank you for coming back and checking out another video. In today's video, we're going to be speaking about John Wick Chapter 4. It's going to kind of be a movie review, but I don't want to spoil it for you. However, I do have feedback on or review on the movie in terms of from a spiritual aspect. So we're going to get into it, all right? I'm pretty sure if you're familiar with the John Wick series, John Wick is a guy who was fighting against a group of individuals that sit at the table. And this particular series, basically he's like a lone wolf for himself, trying to survive. And he is living in abundance. I mean, from the first John Wick up until the fourth one, he doesn't lack for anything. However, he's very modest, he's very humble and quiet. So in my opinion, I believe that a lot of John's issues in life came from people underestimating. So in the end, he's like having to show these people who who he really is and what he's made of. And when he does that, he wreaks havoc. Okay. Now, John Wick Chapter 4. So in the beginning of the movie, it starts out where John is actually riding a horse and he's chasing after some guys in the desert. And after he shoots the first guy off his horse, he shoots the second guy, and then he shoots the third guy. And then he reaches this tent where there's an individual sitting there, and he tells them that he came a long way for nothing. But John Wick says that he came there to serve a purpose, and his purpose was served. Therefore, he puts one into the guy's head. Wow, right? Then the movie continues. Now, there were a couple characters in the movie that stood out to me personally. But the first person I want to talk about is going to be the Asian guy, the blind guy. Now, there's a character, I forget his name in the movie, but he's blind and he can't see. However, he's the best opponent for John Wick. This guy at the marquee, who's the manager, well, he's not the manager because the manager is Winston. But the guy at the marquee, he's like the top guy. He's like the top boss over everybody. And so he knows that John Wick is after him. But instead of him fighting John Wick face to face or head on, he hires individuals and pays them a ransom or pays them a bounty to kill John Wick. So the first person that he hires in the movie is the blind guy. He's a blind Asian dude. And it was funny to me because, I'm sitting back and I'm like, how is the blind guy able to fight and contend with John Wick over all the other people that this marquee hired to kill John Wick? Like, you mean to tell me the blind dude, somebody who can't even see, no vision at all, has the ability to fight against one of the top fighters in this movie, or one of the top characters in this movie? That was interesting to me. So what I got out of that is that the blind man was able to contend with John Wick because even though he didn't have the ability to see and he lost his vision, he didn't waste any time on any foolishness. He basically took his craft serious. And because he didn't have vision, he had to work extra hard on increasing the abilities that he had remaining. So if he wasn't able to see, he had to be able to become more sensitive to sound. If he wasn't able to see, he had to become more fluent with his fighting methods. And if he wasn't able to see, then he had to become more defensive. Because if you can't see, you don't have the ability to defend yourself against an attacker, or you don't have the ability to attack. In order to be victorious, you have to strengthen the abilities that you have remaining. And I think that's what that individual did, and that's what gave him the ability to be an opponent and a worthy opponent and contender for John Wick. So after the blonde dude, another character that stood out was the black guy. And there was a black guy with a dog. Now, the black dude wasn't in any other of the series. This is the first time I've seen him. And to me, he stood out because he had plenty of chances to kill John Wick. But what he would do is he would follow John Wick. He had a tracker on John Wick, or he was able to track his location. So all he was intending to do was to get paid to track John Wick. But once this particular black guy approached the Marquis, he wanted to make a deal with the Marquis, and the Marquis told him tracking him is not enough. I need you to kill him as well. So the tracker said, well, you know, if you give me 20 million or 25 million, I'll do it. The Marquis agreed to it. So the black guy set out to go and kill John Wick. However, John Wick had the ability to kill one of his opponents that was gonna potentially kill the black guy's dog. And because John Wick didn't kill the dog, he killed the opponent that was gonna kill the dog, which made the black guy value John Wick, and therefore he started to kind of like help John Wick, but still kind of follow him because he still wanted to get paid if John Wick had gotten killed. The black dude is an interesting character because the black guy reminds me of your frenemies. People who come around you just to capitalize off of you or just to benefit off of whatever it is you may have to offer. However, in this movie, John Wick was able to break through the black guy's intent to destroy him because he showed love. He showed him love by destroying the individual who was trying to kill the black guy's dog. So they created a friendship, rather, or a bond, because I believe John Wick liked dogs and the black guy had a dog. So, you know, they had something in common. And because the guy was going to shoot the dog, when John seen that, he shot the dude. And all these people are after him. The dude who shot the dog, the dude who owns the dog, which is the black guy, are all after John. So in his mind, he's having to decide who should he kill first, because they're all after him. So that's the black guy. Now, Winston is the individual who is the manager, and he's the guy who the Marquis hired to initially kill John Wick. So in the previous chapters, Winston had failed to kill John Wick. Therefore, we have chapter 4. And in chapter 4, the Marquis basically destroys the manager's hotel and tells him that, you know, he's no longer going to be the manager of a hotel, and basically he's taking his rank away. So the manager, Winston, is upset and he wants revenge. So he calls John Wick to a meeting and basically tells John Wick a strategy on how to take down this Marquis. However, the only way John Wick is going to be successful in doing this is if he kills everybody that is coming after him. And he has to meet at a particular point, which is a church, at sunrise. And I believe sunrise was at 6:03. So it was almost like an impossible feat. However, he still had a chance. So he took it. And another one of John Wick's allies, because I believe that Winston was an ally to John, and another ally is the other black guy who looks like who played the character Morpheus on The Matrix. I forget his name in this particular movie. But this particular guy is the individual who gives John his specialized weapons. He gives him his specialized clothing, his attire, and basically he puts Kevlar in his jackets so he can have a bulletproof vest or a bulletproof suit. And what else does he do? He gives him like this special gun. And make a long story short, he's basically just John's only friend in this particular movie. And I wanna touch bases on that, because in life we may think that we're gonna have all of these people on our side, or we may think that, you know, we deserve to have hundreds or thousands of friends or followers or whatnot. But the reality of the situation is, God didn't promise us to have a multitude of individuals who admire us. So technically, if you just got that one friend, that one good solid friend that you can trust and depend on, then you're blessed. Because if John didn't have this particular dude on his side as an ally, then there would be no John Wick. Because John didn't have the ability to have these weapons or have these particular items at his disposal. They were basically given to him because he decided to take on this task, and these individuals were supporting him. So it's almost like a blessing in disguise when we think that we're alone, or sometimes you may think that you're alone, but that's just to build you up, to make you a stronger individual. And once you become that stronger individual and take on the mission of your life, take on the purpose that the Most High has created you for, your allies will support you. You will have a support team. The Most High will give you people and resources and things that you will never lack. But you have to make that decision to take on the mission and the purpose that God gave you, because that's the true meaning of life. That's what makes life fulfilling. A couple quotes in the movie that stood out to me was, John said, "A man without a purpose is a man that's worthless," or "A person without a purpose is worthless." And then another quote John said was, he said, "Those who cling to life shall die, and those who cling to death shall live." And that sounds similar to a scripture in the Bible when Christ says, "Those who lose their lives for me shall gain their lives, and those who cling to their lives shall lose their life." I mean, that's in the Bible. Let me get that real quick. Hold on 1 second. I'll pull that up for you. Okay, so that's going to be in Matthew 16, verse 25. Matthew 16, verse 25. And it states, "For whoever will save his life shall lose it, and whoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it." That's Matthew 16, verse 25, King James Version. So, you know, it was a lot of good things in this movie that stood out. And I hope I didn't spoil it for you guys, but I definitely recommend that you guys go and see the 4th chapter of John Wick. John Wick Chapter 4 is an amazing movie. And let me see, I think I covered everything except the marquee guy. Now, let's speak about the marquee guy. Now, the marquee guy, he was a coward in the movie. He played the antagonist, basically. This particular individual was a guy who lived in a palace that was beautiful. He had gold everywhere. He had servants, maids, all type of people that was at his disposal. And basically, my interpretation of why he didn't like John Wick is because John Wick was the only individual who could expose the Marquis for being the type of person that he was in regards to being evil and just malevolent. In regards to John Wick being the good guy, quote unquote, the protagonist in the movie, and he was basically the individual who fought for humanity, versus the Marquis was an individual who only focused on himself. And what he would do is that he would destroy others for the benefit of himself, which in my opinion would be the devil, or would be the enemy. Because in this world, the Most High did give us the ability to create, however, not at the expense of others, especially at the expense of others' downfall. That's not the intentions of the Most High Creator. If he has the ability to create and he made us in his image, we have the ability to create, but nothing was destroyed when God created the universe. Nothing was eliminated when the Most High created the planets and the grass and the water and the air and the fire and the wind, the soil, his people, the animals. Nothing was destroyed. However, man destroys things every day just to gain one up over the next man. Not even to gain something that's unattainable, but just to have more than the next. Because this Marquis was a guy, like I said, who had everything. So my understanding of it is that he didn't have to do none of the things that he was doing to have the things that he had. He just was strictly after power, money, and control. And in order to obtain these things in abundance, he had to do a lot of manipulation. So John had caught on to this, and once he linked up with the manager Winston basically gave him an idea. He came up with a plan to challenge this Marquis to a duel, a one-on-one duel. Because you got to understand something about the enemy. The enemy is such a coward that he does not have the ability to face you one-on-one. The enemy does not want to face you one-on-one. Why? Because he know you're going to win. Imagine somebody that's been fighting their whole life to obtain something versus somebody who's been given something their whole life. And then in the end, you want to say, well, let's see who's the strongest out of the two of y'all. Who do you think is going to be the strongest out of two individuals who one person fought his whole life to get to a certain place versus the other person had it smooth and easy and had it given to him to get to the same place? Which one do you think is going to be stronger and have more fight and more hunger to win the battle? So this particular Marquis hated John Wick. He despised him with every cell in his body, but he would not face him one-on-one. That's why he kept sending people after him, because he couldn't do the job that he wanted to be done himself. That's the enemy. That's a coward. So I don't want to give too much of the movie, but in the end, he gets his just due. I'm just going to say that. Because the Most High, first of all, let me explain something to you. The enemy works for the Most High. The enemy is not a separate entity. So for anybody who says they don't believe in God, they don't want to study and research more about his abundance and and what he offers you as a vessel here on this earth, then you are essentially by default serving the enemy, because there is no in between. You either serving the Most High or you're serving the enemy. And even if you say, well, I'm not serving the enemy, but I don't read and worship and do my research or study about anything other than what makes me feel good about myself, well, then ultimately you're serving yourself. And if you're serving yourself, then the Bible says lean not to your own understanding. So that will go into you making yourself an idol, which means essentially if you're not intentionally serving the enemy, then you're unintentionally serving the enemy by not serving the Most High. So by default, you end up serving the enemy. All because you don't take the initiative to wake up, praise, worship, research, and study your culture, your history, your background, your spiritual essence, things that are not taught to us in school. These are the things that are our responsibility as adults. So anybody over the age of 18 or 21 or 30 or 40 or however you may be, however old you may be, there's no excuse as to why you're not chasing after the Father or gaining some spiritual knowledge about self. Because this is 2023. We have smartphones. We have the internet. We have all of these devices at our fingertips, at our disposal. So there's no excuse. So if you're not serving the Most High, then by default, you're serving the enemy. And in the end of this particular movie, the enemy is destroyed, which means everything that went along with the enemy is going to be destroyed as well. So I hope this video was edifying to you guys. This has been a video on John Wick Chapter 4, movie review, spiritual discernment. All praises to the Most High. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I actually like to call it the strong end because there's nothing weak about us. We're a strong and healthy nation of people. So I pray that you guys have a healthy and prosperous, abundant, strong end and continue to put God first. Glory be to the Most High. I'll get it to y'all next time. Shalom.